Hello, welcome to section 3. This may be the section you've been waiting for because it sounds much more practical. How do you change from pain to pleasure? So you've already made a wrong decision inside, you've already got yourself into an upset feeling, you're already judging the circumstance around you. So how do you shift from being like that to creating and choosing pleasure in your life? And as you know, in each section, we have got 3 different ways of doing that. And the first way is change your circumstances. And we're not going to look at changing your circumstances like changing where you live, changing your partner, changing your job, changing your car, and the amount of money you have in your bank account. We're not going to look at that way of changing. We're going to concentrate on changing people. And you might say, well, that's impossible. But we say that that's impossible, yet we spend a lot of our time doing that. And we're going to look at 3 different ways that we use to change people. Because mistakenly, we see that other people's actions or behavior causes us pain. So we want to change the behavior or actions of someone else so that it causes us pleasure rather than pain. And we're going to look at 3 ways that we commonly do that. And I'm going to call the 3 ways win-lose, win-win, and lose-lose. And I'll just look a little bit at the way that I describe as win-lose. And this way is that you get other people to change their behavior so that you feel better. And the 2 most common ways we use to do that are guilt and fear. Fear mostly comes in whenever we're in a position of authority. There's a difference between us and the person we're trying to get to change their behavior, and that's often where we're a parent or a boss at work. So I'd say to my children, look, if you don't take out the rubbish like we agreed, then there's going to be £5 off your pocket money each month. Or if you don't behave yourself at the table and eat in a way using your knife and your fork that I like, if you don't change your behavior and your manners at the table, then there's going to be blah 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 is going to happen. So what I'm doing there is trying to use fear to control someone else's behavior, and that obviously spoils the connection you have with your children. If a boss is using that with his employees at work, obviously that destroys the relationship between the boss and the employee. There's no trust, there's no real connection happening there. And so we use those sort of ways of winning and the other person losing at our peril. Also, of course, and that's where the real pain comes from, is we disconnect to our true self and we disconnect to others. And we're not really being a loving being when we're using fear to manipulate other people's behavior. What we do with our friends and our partners is we don't usually use fear, but we usually use guilt to try and manipulate them. So we now think of a situation where we're in a close, intimate relationship with someone and they forget our birthday, or they totally forget about the meeting in the cafe or the dinner that we were taking them to. And so when they do eventually remember and turn up in the restaurant, we're there looking really sad and grumpy and forlorn, and we want to make them feel guilty for upsetting us, for forgetting us, for not caring about us the way we would want to happen. And so we sit there grumpy and we're trying to make them feel guilty and apologize or be really nice to us because we have decided they're wrong, they're the cause of our upset. So what we're wanting to do is we're trying to win in that situation by using guilt to get them to apologize, to get them to behave in a different way. We're trying, if we really want to lay on the guilt, is we're going to try and make it so horrible for them that they'll never forget again our birthday or the dinner date. And of course, what we're doing again is destroying the relationship, destroying the connection, because who really wants to be around anyone who uses guilt to manipulate or try and manipulate the people around them. Who really wants to be in a relationship with someone who's using guilt to try and get you to change and to behave in a certain way? And I discovered that for myself. And it was when I was in a relationship with someone who didn't buy into the whole guilt game. So there I was when the person decided they didn't want to be in a relationship with me anymore. There I was, really devastated, looking really sad and forlorn and upset. And the person said to me, she said, "Well, James, did you make your happiness depend on me?" And of course I did. And of course I wanted her to see that and change and decide to stay. But she wasn't having any of that, and she wasn't buying in to the fact that I was trying to make her guilty, because she was coming from a totally different place. She knew that happiness did not depend on relationships. I thought they did. And therefore, if I think my happiness depends on you being around me, being in a relationship with me, I'm going to use everything possible to try and keep you to stay. So I'll use guilt most commonly, and I use fear occasionally, and I'm trying to win. I don't really care about you. You'll lose, but at least I get what I want. And I'm so empty and needy inside that I can't see any other way of being in a relationship with you. And of course, if you are the type of person who does the same thing, then there's going to be this back and forward game of manipulating each other using guilt, and seemingly at times getting what you want. Seemingly at times both of you get what you want, and other times it seems just one person's getting what they want and the other person is seen as the guilty and bad one. But of course we realize after a while, we all come to that realization that that isn't really the way to relate to other people. That isn't the way to treat ourselves, never mind other people. And so we need to wake up to realizing that trying to change people, the actions of people, so that we feel better, doesn't work for us, and it doesn't work for them. And it doesn't work for us because we disconnect to our true self. And when we're doing that to other people, we're attacking them, we're using them as objects, we're using them to meet our needs in ways that we don't really truly care about them. And there isn't really a connection and a relationship that will give us true pleasure. As we've seen through this course and up to now, that changing circumstances won't do that for us. It won't give us the pleasure that we really want. It might seem to give us an initial pleasure and good feeling and happiness, and we think that we're ecstatic and even blissful because we get what we want and everything seems perfect, but that doesn't last for long, and it's not really the true pleasure we were looking for anyway. So let's have a final look then at changing circumstances to feel good, and how we use different ways of doing that. So we'll go into more detail in the slides about the win-lose, the win-win, and the lose-lose strategy. So I'll see you shortly in the slides.